to the famous Jawas series, where we will tell you about the lives and accomplishments of noteworthy and famous Jawas. In this episode we will be exploring the life of the renowned Jawa painter, Rubren Cornu. At first sight, Rubren Cornu appears to be just your average Jawa, but she is in fact different from the normal Jawas. She is a Jawa from Down Under. Now you are probably wondering what this Down Under is. Well, like most planets, Tatooine has both the northern and southern hemisphere. It used to be that all of Tatooine's inhabited areas had always been located in its northern hemisphere, and the southern hemisphere had always been uninhabited, as both Jawas and Sand people were too scared to go down there, fearing they would fall off the planet. Scholars do not really know why this is, but it is likely to have something to do with the after effects of the Rakata bombardment of Tatooine many millennia ago. The leading theory being that maybe the southern hemisphere got hit harder during the Rakata bombardment, leaving no surviving Kumonga down there. Despite their fears, many Jawas had always been curious about exploring these mysterious lands to the far south, and myths and legends started to spread of large untouched starship graveyards down there, full of crashed ships just waiting to be scavenged. It wasn't until a few centuries ago, however, that some Jawa clans decided to actually set up an expedition to travel on a long and dangerous journey all the way down under, and so several Jawa clans loaded all their belongings into the Sandcrawlers and set out on an incredibly long and dangerous journey to this mystical desert land. When they arrived, they were disappointed. They found a mostly empty desert landscape filled with some really weird and dangerous creatures, but no large starship graveyards. Despite the initial disappointment, the Jawas created a colony down there, naming it New Jawa Land. Over the centuries, the Jawas living down there developed some cultural differences from the northern Jawas. For example, they speak Jawais with an odd accent and will often use shortened words.
From our point of view, you bloody northern Jawas are the ones speaking with an odd accent.
It was in the colony of New Jawa Land that Rubren Cornu was born, but Rubren wasn't your average Jawa. She saw the world differently. While other Jawas just made machinery and droids from scrap, Rubren made majestic statues. The other Jawas were confused by her strange constructions and ended up scrapping them again.
I was so annoyed every time those bogans scrapped my statues. They just couldn't appreciate art.
Annoyed at her works always being scavenged, Rubren then discovered she could also draw and paint art, and since Jawas don't have any use for scavenging paper and canvas, they finally left her artworks alone. It was during her earlier years as an artist that she drew the now famous Flying Banthas drawing, and while Rubren claims she really saw these flying banthas, there are some doubts to her story, based on the fact she may have had one too many cold ones, aka Jawa beers, that evening.
Okay, I admit I may have had one too many Jawa beers that evening, but I swear I really saw those flying banthas. I also once met a talking crate dragon.
Sadly, the Jawas down under didn't really have much use for artworks, so she was unable to sell any of her paintings. Frustrated with her fellow Jawas' lack of enthusiasm for her works, and wanting to seek out a more cultured environment filled with art lovers, Rubren set out on a journey to the old Jawa homelands far up north. It was a long and perilous journey, but she made it to the northern hemisphere alive and in one piece, and she ended up settling in Mozilla, renting a cheap apartment. At first, she would sell her artworks at the Mozilla market to make ends meet. The Jawas and colonists up north immediately fell in love with her artworks. The northern Jawas had already come to enjoy and appreciate artworks after they discovered some interesting paintings inside an old abandoned Circa base. Eventually, her art even ended up making its way to other planets, where many citizens in the galaxy found it amusing to display art in their home made by a Jawa.
One off-world even offered me 100,000 credits for one of my drawings.
But her art endeavors aren't the only thing that make Rubram a special Jawa. You see, it appears Rubram is in fact force-sensitive and often has strange dreams and visions, some even predicting the future. One time, Rubram dreamt that Uncle Milok would trip over a banana and fall on his butt and painted this hilarious image. A week later, Uncle Milok actually did trip over a banana and broke his tailbone. Some of her other artworks also seem to be prophetic, portraying events that hadn't happened yet. The Jawa Council decided that Rubram, as a female Jawa, would make a good candidate to become a Jawa shaman, and so she received an invitation to receive Jawa shaman training at a top-secret Jawa shaman temple deep in the Dune Sea, but she declined this offer in order to continue to focus on creating art instead.
Being a Jawa shaman sounds so boring. Who wants to spend ages in some remote hidden place to train? I like being here amongst all my fellow Jawas and the colonists, and meeting the many travellers who visit Tatooine. I get so much inspiration for future drawings and paintings from just watching people.
After Rubram became the first Jawa from Down Under to become well known, other Jawas from the colony also became famous after they followed in her footsteps to reconnect with the northern Jawa clans, like the Jawa known as Jal from the Today on Tatooine website, who posts daily facts about Jawas and Tatooine, as well as the Jawa animal expert Jeev Jawin.
It's good to see more of my fellow Jawas from Down Under travelling up north and making a name for themselves. One day, I hope to make enough credits from my artworks to fund the construction of a spaceport back home in New Jawa land. That way it'll be easier for people to visit here, as well as for my fellow Down Under Jawas to travel and visit other places too.
As the Jawas started collecting more and more artworks, the Jawa Council eventually decided to build the Jawa Museum of Art, which is located right next to the Jawa Museum of Antiquities. Rubram's art even ended up being displayed in the Jawa Museum of Art, right alongside paintings of legendary Jawa painters like Jeev So and Von Scrap. Some of her more famous artworks include Jaraman with Family, Jawa Shaman, Anniversary Cake, Shiny Zabrak covered in gold, and the Anti-Darmanda artwork, Basques and Mincemeat. This last one was bought by none other than Shivisla herself, who hung it up above her fireplace.
My drawing made Shay laugh. She doesn't seem like she laughs often. Maybe that's why she has so many wrinkles.
Rubram continues to paint new artworks every day, and dreams that one day one of her artworks might be displayed at the Galactic Museum of Art on Coruscant. Who knows, maybe she will paint me next. Imagine that, a genuine Rubram Cornu portrait of the #1 Jawa expert. In the next episode of Famous Jawas, we will find out about an infamous Jawa hacker. Until next time.
There we go. My latest masterpiece is finished. Houdini!